Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dallas Cowboys coverage after an incredible, improbable, amazing win. The Cowboys take down the last year's Super Bowl Cincinnati Bengals by a score of 20-17. It was amazing. It was just an incredible, huge upset as the Cowboys somehow get it done against the Bengals. I'm going to break it all down here, so let's get right into it. Wow. Okay, so what a turnaround. Just last week, here I am. If you saw the previous video, I'm thinking this year's done. It's over. I mean, it was pretty bad vibes last week. It was rough all the way around. And to be topped off with the Dak injury, along with many other players getting hurt, it just felt like the sky was falling. It was all over for the Cowboys before it even began. I really thought that was it. We hear 4 to 6 weeks and then 6 to 8 weeks for Dak. It's like, couldn't do it with him. How are they going to do it without him? Well, somehow Cooper Rush and the Cowboys got it done. The offense looked worlds better than it did last week. The defense was great as usual. So it was amazing. Let's start with Cooper Rush. The stats are really pretty good. The game was not perfect, as it may suggest, but he did everything he needed to do. I will be honest, there were some bad passes. There were a lot that probably could have and should have been intercepted, but he did everything you can ask for out of a backup. He went in there, he got it done, elevated the offense, and did what the Cowboys could not do last week, and they got the win, so no complaints out of Cooper Rush. He wasn't perfect. No, he's not better than Dak. Don't start with that yet. It's 1 week. But he did he did his job, and for a backup, he did a great job and secured the win. He was amazing. Running backs, Ezekiel Elliott, not as good as he was last week. Just fine production. Tony Pollard played really well, nearly 100 yards in total between rushing and receiving. He averaged around 5 yards per carry. So Tony Pollard good and explosive as usual. But the wide receivers, I'll say player of the game is Noah Brown. He stepped up and has been incredible. when I saw that he was going to be wide receiver 2 to start this year, I was concerned to say the least. If you've seen my previous offseason videos, I was not happy about that. But Noah Brown has done everything you could have asked for him and more. Still looking forward to Michael Gallup, James Washington coming back. Hopefully Jalen Tolbert will finally get some playing time. But Noah Brown has done his job. 91 total yards, a touchdown on only 5 receptions. Noah Brown, awesome. Made huge plays when the Cowboys needed it. Helped Cooper Rush throughout the game. Their connection was evident, and Noah Brown was awesome. So, great game out of him. CeeDee Lamb, much better. A huge bounce back game for him as well. 75 yards. Still not quite the wide receiver 1 game yet, but a huge step up from last week, and hopefully he can continue to grow, and especially as Dak is hopefully able to come back, CeeDee Lamb can really get in rhythm and solidify himself as the number 1 wide receiver, because it's got to be him, obviously. So the offensive line was really not too bad at all. I mean, you are playing with backups. You have Tyler Smith, rookie. Matt Farniok is probably your 3rd string. Tyler Biadasz, Zack Martin, of course, and Terrence Steele. The offensive line on paper is not the best looking, I'll be very honest. But they did their job this week, only allowing 1 sack. Tyler Smith looked amazing, only 1 pressure in all of his snaps. So, while still not a perfect performance, they did their job. And that is, I think, the big takeaway for me of this game. Everyone did their job. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't pretty, but everyone got it done. Just enough for the Cowboys to pull off a great win. And that's what's got to happen. Until Dak gets back, it's going to be like this. It's going to be close games. It's going to be crazy performances. It's going to be inconsistencies, and it's not always going to be pretty. But if you can get a win, especially against a good opponent like the Bengals, that is an A plus for me. A win is a win, and that's what the Cowboys need right now. So great job by the offensive line just to get their job done. And then moving on to the defense, it was incredible. 6 sacks. I'm not sure when the last time the Cowboys defense got that many sacks was, but Micah Parsons, amazing as usual. I think 10 pressures, 2 sacks, couple tackles for a loss, a bunch of QB hits. He was outstanding. He is on pace for, record-breaking numbers already. 4 sacks in only 2 games. His sacks are feeling like Trevon Diggs' interceptions from last year. And Trevon Diggs, what a game he had as well. He was better in coverage. Jamar Chase only 2 catches for 12 yards. That's it. Jamar Chase was talking the talk before the game, but Trevon Diggs and the Cowboys defense, the secondary did a great job against him, keeping him and the rest of the wide receivers of the Bengals, Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, very contained. They did their job. Trevon Diggs, again, had some huge tackles. I think he had like 7 of them, including 2 very, very big ones on that last drive. Trevon Diggs has really looked good this year. No interceptions yet. I believe those will still come, even if it's not the 11 of last year. He has improved tremendously in coverage. Still not perfect. There were still some times where he was behind a wide receiver. Again, wasn't covering Chase the whole game. So I'm not going to say he was perfect, but again, he looked much better. He got his job done in a big way, especially on that tackle to stop that last drive. So continuing with the defensive line, though, I don't want to get too far away from them. Dorance Armstrong also had 2 sacks, along with a couple tackles for a loss. Dante Fowler, sorry, couldn't think of his name for a minute, had a sack, 2 tackles for a loss. He was also awesome. It was all over. Leighton, Vander, also tackles for a loss, had that 1 big sack as well. It was just an incredible all-around performance. I feel like I'm still missing someone, but the defensive tackles look good. Gallimore and Odigizua. Bohanna had a big run stop. Terrell Basham obviously placed on injured reserve. I want to kind of get to the roster moves at the end of the video, so I'll swing back to that. But it was a great game. DeMarcus Lawrence also some good stops. It was just a great job by the defense. Obviously, held the Bengals to only 3 points the entire first half. The offense stalled out a little bit in that second half, and really not the best drive by the defense, that very long one with the 2-point conversion. But again, it wasn't always pretty, but the Cowboys and the defense got their job done. Anthony Brown looked better. He was pretty lost in week 1. And the secondary was really, safety-wise especially, was very good. Donovan Wilson stepped in a big way, had that interception week 1, had a lot of big tackles, really good play out of him in place of Jayron Kearse. Good game from Lee Hooker, and also Anthony Barr, aside from the bad penalty at the beginning, had a very good game as well. So moving right along to special teams, Kevontae Turpin, we saw a little bit of flash out of him. He had a couple good returns, punt returns, didn't return any kicks, but you can see the flashes. I think it's just a matter of time before we see him take off for a touchdown like we saw in week 2 of the preseason. Brian Anger, excellent as always at the punter position, but Brett Money Maher, the hero of the day, got the game ball from the Cowboys. He has been great since coming back. Has not missed any kicks of any kind, and the Cowboys, frankly, are lucky to have him. I'm not completely sold yet. I still want to see him be consistent on a week-to-week basis, but so far he has been absolutely excellent. Drained 2 50-yard field goals to 54 in the first half, and the game-winning 50-yard field goal. It was scary. It was moving all around, just barely hooked in, but doesn't matter. Again, doesn't have to be pretty. He got his job done, and again, story of this game. Brett Maher, the defense, the offense, all around got their job done. So it was a great win. It was a so much needed win, and I did not expect it. I was really pretty sure that the Bengals would take this one. But the Cowboys are all of a sudden in a good position here 1-1. This is exactly what the Cowboys are wanting. Got Monday night against the Giants. If they can win that, they take over the lead over the Giants. The Eagles, unfortunately, won here tonight on Monday Night Football. But the Cowboys are in striking distance, and this is more than we could have ever dreamed of, really, or at least that I could have after last week's performance. So, great game for the Cowboys, great performance, and now I just want to get into the injuries, some updates there, and a look ahead to next week and future weeks for this Cowboys team, sort of the outlook and the expectation going forward. So I want to start with Dak Prescott. This was a very positive turn of events for Dak. It sort of started with, 4 to 6 weeks was the initial diagnosis, and then up to sort of a 6 to 8 weeks, and that's when it was really looking bleak. And then sort of came down again when Jerry drops the bombshell that they will not be placing him on injured reserve. So that sort of turns into within 4, and now Stephen Jones has said 3 to 4 weeks from the time of the injury, not week 3 to be clear, but gave him a possibility to return week 5, maybe even week 4. It's amazing. I was really, really scared. I'm thinking, again, this year's over. Dak's missing substantial amount of time, but now if he could be back week 4 or week 5, I think week 5 is kind of the more realistic time, but just that's amazing. I was expecting like after the bye week initially, and now for him to be healing well, apparently it wasn't as bad as it could have been. The swelling's been going down well, and I just hope that he can stay on track but be fully healed as well. We don't want any setbacks. So, but if he could come back, let's just say week 5, I think that is a great outcome. And after this performance, it gives me hope that Cooper Rush and the Cowboys can kind of stay afloat until he gets back. And with him coming back, hopefully this offense is kind of caught up now, up to speed, and hopefully is able to hit the ground running with him returning. Other players, Connor McGovern at left guard, obviously that MCL sprain. No, sorry, he was the high ankle sprain. Jayron Kearse was the MCL. That's a tough injury. Sometimes it's 4 to 6 weeks. The Cowboys thought more of a 3 to 4 week timeline, as he was also not placed on IR, so he could also be returning sooner than later. Same thing with Jayron Kearse. He was the sprained MCL, and again not placed on IR, so hopefully he should be back within around 3 weeks. Hopefully maybe even less. And then Michael Gallup is an interesting one as well at wide receiver. Did not play this week, but I think has a real chance to play next week against the Giants. Again, not for sure. Again, don't want to rush him back, but if he could play at the latest week 4, I think that's awesome. Have him back, sort of get him acclimated, even if it's just on a snap count before Dak gets back, so they can really hit the ground running when Dak returns. So Michael Gallup, really a great recovery out of him. I really was afraid that he wasn't going to be back till mid-season for Dallas, but for him to be nearly ready this early, it's been awesome, and I just hope that he can come back fully healthy and ready to go. All right, continuing with wide receivers, James Washington. Man, I'm getting out of breath with all these injuries. He was also obviously hurt in the preseason training camp time. It was before the preseason was training camp, and luckily it happened early, so he was placed on IR, so he's not eligible to return till week 5, but I think that could be a realistic option. We haven't heard too much on him. He was that broken foot, but depending on how that healing's going, I think week 5 or 6, not out of question for James Washington, and that'll be just another great addition to the wide receiver core, which has been really better than expected. Again, Noah Brown has stepped up in a big way, but having guys like Michael Gallup and James Washington back, along with CeeDee Lamb, Noah Brown, Jalen Tolbert, hopefully, this wide receiver core is looking a lot better and a lot brighter than it initially was looking. So Dalton Schultz, another key injury. It was a PCL injury, not quite sure the extent and if he'll be missing any time. He obviously went down and came back for the team's final drive, but I think left after just one play. So he was obviously hobbled, but he was hyped in the locker room. I don't think it's going to be too serious. Maybe he misses next week, but I don't think it's going to be too much beyond that. It does not seem to be any substantial damage there, so I think he should be all right. All right, continuing, Terrell Basham was placed on IR with I believe it was a quad injury. I'm not sure exactly how serious that is. I think he should probably be back after the 4 weeks. I think that was sort of some roster manipulating, if you will, in an effort to get Cooper Rush and Brett Maher signed to the 53-man roster off the practice squad. That move was done, and correspondingly, John Ridgeway was waived, and he was expected and hoped to be back on the practice squad today. Unfortunately, the Washington Commanders did claim him, so unfortunately, the Cowboys' 5th-round pick, defensive tackle John Ridgeway, gone way too soon, as he is no longer a member of the Cowboys. Unfortunately, was claimed off of waivers by the Commanders, so tough break there. Was really hoping to see him develop and be back on the practice squad at least. Unfortunately, though, he was claimed. All right, I think that's it out of the roster moves. Expect a new move coming this week. The Cowboys, I believe, have 2 practice squad spots open after Cooper Rush and Brett Maher were elevated. Alec Lindstrom and Will Grier obviously were elevated for week 2's game, so they are back on the practice squad, just to make that clear. But however, there are still 2 open spots, so we'll see where the Cowboys look to fill those. Maybe, who knows, maybe they'll look just elsewhere in free agency, maybe more depth at the, maybe the wide receiver position. I know a lot of guys were hoping maybe Malik Turner could be brought back. No real buzz on that, but something, just depth like that is something I'd like to see. Who knows, maybe even Ben DiNucci finds his way back on the practice squad. But again, 2 open spots. We'll see what the Cowboys do, and I will let you know when moves are made. So thanks so much for watching. Feel free to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed, and for more content in future weeks. So it was a great win. It was improbable. It was unexpected, but I'm so happy about it. It came down to the wire. I was pretty nervous at the end there, but the Cowboys stuck it out. Everyone on that team got their job done. The Cowboys got their job done and got the win. They stand at a record of 1-1, very respectable considering all the circumstances, and a chance to bring that up to 2-1 and really get back up to at least 2nd place in the division as they take on the New York Giants Monday Night Football next week. So stay tuned for that. That'll be on ESPN, and look for a video breaking that down. Hopefully the Cowboys can pick up another win. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and go Cowboys.